Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Mason Zero ASMR. My name is Mason. Today, I'm going to be going through the white cards in my Magic the Gathering cube. Since this is the first episode, I'm going to run through a couple basics of my cube first. So, it is 540 cards. It is a budget cube. It's around like $500 worth of cards, roughly. I think there's 50 cards per color. Yes, 50 cards per color. And then there are multicolored cards. It's a kind of heavily multicolored cube. It could be more, but there's a lot of mana fixing and stuff like that. There's themes within multicolor combinations as well as single colors, and the most important thing to note is that it's always changing. I make changes every few days, probably, just swapping out something. And I have the whole thing up and updated on Cube Tutor, so if you would like to go check out my cube, I will leave a link in the description to the Cube Tutor page where you can see all the changes that I'm making, and you can do a practice draft yourself. So as I'm going through this, I'll also talk about some of the themes that can be drafted and stuff like that. So to start off with, we have white, and I'm going to start off with the creatures, and then go through card types, and of course in mana cost order within that. So we first have Thraben Inspector, costs 1 white for a 1/2 creature, human soldier. When Thraben Inspector enters the battlefield, investigate. You know, before I start going through the cards, I should actually talk about some of the themes. So, white. White at its core does aggro best in terms of small creatures, and a lot of them, whether that be tokens or just cards here like Thraben Inspector that are low cost but come with a lot of value. So that's what white does on its own. There's some synergies within it, of course. Lots of good attacking creatures is always good. There's some combat tricks. There's a bit of a soldier tribal theme that I may or may not take further. I pretty much just have a soldier lord basically right now, and then one other card that cares about soldiers, I believe. So not a super big theme. As far as white combined with other colors, that's what I wanted to talk about. So if we go white-red, then we're committing even more to aggressive tactics. Red adds in some top-end creatures that might be more effective. Red's top end has a better going rate than white's top end usually. It'll also come with a lot more removal. While white does have some removal, red's is often more efficient in many cases. So it adds a lot of that. But also red just has a lot of low drops as well. A lot of aggressive 1 and 2 drops. A lot of tokens and goblins. Can really make the ultimate aggressive deck. Combine white with blue, and you have some more control. The main theme for white and blue, not necessarily tribal, but more synergies, is flying. Blue-white flyers is a big theme in my cube. You'll find quite a few white flyers here, and then there's a few payoff cards for flying. Yes, that's what you get there. You can also just ignore the flying and go more control, because of course white and blue between them have a lot of removal and counter magic and stuff like that. Combine white with black, and you get a couple things. You can take the tokens further, because black has a few good token aspects to it, but also you get more into the life gain and life loss area. White has a bit of a life gain sub-theme that I'm working on, and I think black is the best complement to that. So there's a few payoff cards that you'll see here for gaining life, and between white and black, there's quite a bit. Green also gets in there a little bit. So there's some green life gain, but white-black is predominant. And then speaking of green, we have white and green, which can go a couple directions. The main that I built into it was enchantments. There's quite a few white enchantments and enchantment synergies, and green has quite a few to add in as well. So that could be a potentially powerful deck and some fun synergies. You'll see some pretty obvious cards for that. There's also probably a bit of a tokens theme there as well, I think. But yeah, enchantments is the big thing. So anyways, we'll go through the cards. So Thraben Inspector. She, I suppose, is an efficient 1-drop for a 1/2. You get card draw later, which white has a hard time with, and there's a bit of artifact synergy in pretty much every color except for green, I think. So this makes an artifact, which goes well with, I'm going to mix this around here. Toolcraft Exemplar, which went along with Thraben Inspector in Standard quite a bit. But now Thraben Inspector is rotating. So Toolcraft Exemplar is 1 white for a 1/1 creature, Dwarf Artificer. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control an artifact, Toolcraft Exemplar gets +2/+1 until end of turn. If you control 3 or more artifacts, it also gains first strike until end of turn. So great combo with Thraben Inspector on its own. It's just a 1/1 for 1. Not very exciting, but a 3/2 or even better a 3/2 with first strike for 1 when it's attacking is a great deal. So cards like Thraben Inspector help with that. There's also quite a few other ways to get artifacts. Doom Traveler is another very efficient white card. It is a 1/1 for 1 creature, human soldier. When it dies, put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So it replaces itself with a token that's even better because it has flying. So another very efficient card. You don't mind it dying. Soldier of the Pantheon. It's 1 white for a 2/1 creature, human soldier, so already aggressive. Has protection from multicolored, which is a big deal. Like I said, there's a lot of multicolored cards. And whenever an opponent casts a multicolored spell, you gain 1 life. So this tackles a few areas, which I like. It's a soldier, which there's some soldier synergies. It's an aggressive 1-drop. And then it interacts with the multicolored aspects of the cube and its life gain. So when building this cube, I want to approach it by putting in a lot of cards that synergize with as many aspects as possible, instead of just a standalone card that's just kind of good. Mardu Woe Reaper, 1 white for a 2/1 creature, human warrior. Whenever Mardu Woe Reaper or another warrior enters the battlefield under your control, you may exile target creature card from your graveyard. If you do, you gain 1 life. This also tackles a few areas. First of all, white, aggressive 1-drop. There are some warrior synergies, I forgot to mention that. There's black-white warriors, which can also splash red and green, but black-white together is where the synergy actually comes in and a reason to play tribal. And also, this is some graveyard hate, which there's not too much of, and some life gain. So, again, checks all the boxes. Mother of Runes. It's 1 white for a 1/1 creature, human cleric. Tap, target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. It's a very cheap, very repeatable protection spell. That's pretty much why it's in here. Protects all your big guys. It's just a good, efficient card. Soul Warden, and that's foil. It's a 1/1 for 1 human cleric. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. So, yeah, just life gain. Helps with the tokens decks, of course. Our last 1-drop is Step Links. 1 white for a 0/1 creature cat with landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, Step Links gets +2/+2 until end of turn. So, for most turns, it's going to be a 2/3 for 1, which is fantastic. Moving on to our 2-drop creatures. Imposing Sovereign is 1 and a white for a 2/1 creature, human. Creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. So there's some of that white control that we were talking about. This card doesn't synergize with much. It just makes your opponent's creatures enter the battlefield tapped. Moving forward, I might replace this card with the Thalia from Eldritch Moon. It's 1 more mana, but it's a lot better. Lone Rider, 1 and a white for a 1/1 creature, human knight, first strike and lifelink. At the beginning of the end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, transform Lone Rider. Now this is one of those life gain payoff cards I was talking about. Gain some life and it becomes a 4/4 first strike, trample, lifelink. It that rides as 1, a creature Eldrazi horror. So a 2-drop that can very easily become an efficient 4/4. We have Seeker of the Way, 1 and a white for a 2/2 creature, human warrior with prowess. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Seeker of the Way gains lifelink until end of turn. So again, lifelink, again warriors. There's plenty of non-creature spells to trigger that. Hanweir Militia Captain, 1 and a white for a 2/2 creature, human soldier. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 4 or more creatures, transform Hanweir Militia Captain into Westvale Cult Leader. Star, power and toughness, creature, human cleric. Westvale Cult Leader's power and toughness are each equal to the number of creatures you control. At the beginning of your end step, put a 1/1 white and black human cleric creature token onto the battlefield. So this is one of those cards that makes tokens a lot better. You can have a really big guy that pumps out a token every turn. Consul's Lieutenant, 2 white for a 2/1 creature, human soldier, with first strike and renowned 1. Whenever Consul's Lieutenant attacks, if it's renowned, other attacking creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. So it rewards attacking early and often. It's just a very nice 2-drop that becomes relevant later in the game if you manage to get through with it. Nyx Fleece Ram, 1 and a white for a 0/5 enchantment creature, sheep. At the beginning of your upkeep, you gain 1 life. So it goes into life gain, goes into enchantments, which I mentioned, and it's just a very good blocker. Glory Bound Initiate, 1 and a white for a 3/1 creature, human warrior. You may exert Glory Bound Initiate as it attacks. When you do, it gets +1/+3 and gains lifelink until end of turn. So having a 4/4 lifelink every other turn is a pretty good deal, especially if you can untap it in any way. So just a very, very nice card for a 2-drop. Serene Steward, 1 and a white for a 2/2 creature, human cleric ally. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 1 white. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. This goes into the life gain theme. This was a pretty recent addition because I don't like having too many cards that just don't do anything on their own. This is just a 2/2 for 2 if you're not gaining life. But I wanted to have some payoff, and I think this is a decent payoff card. Hidden Dragon Slayer, 1 and a white for a 2/1 creature, human warrior, with lifelink and megamorph for 2 and a white. When Hidden Dragon Slayer is turned face up, destroy target creature with power 4 or greater and opponent controls. So it's got warriors, it's got life gain, and it is a removal spell. Hero of Iroas, 1 and a white for a 2/2 creature, human soldier. Aura spells you cast cost 1 generic less to cast. Has heroic. Whenever you cast a spell that targets Hero of Iroas, put a +1/+1 counter on Hero of Iroas. So, The enchantment sub-theme has plenty of auras and a few ways to return them to your hand and play them again, keep them coming back to the battlefield. And this guy just makes that so much more efficient. And if you cast them on himself, then he gets bigger. Trueheart Duelist, 1 and a white for a 2/2 creature, human warrior. Trueheart Duelist can block an additional creature each combat. Embalm for 2 and a white. So it's a fair 2/2 for 2. It can be a good blocker if you need it to be, and it comes back one more time, which is just nice. Erishin Foremost, 1 and 2 white for a 2/2 creature, human warrior with double strike. Whenever Erishin Foremost enters the battlefield or attacks, another target warrior creature you control gains double strike until end of turn. So this is one of those warrior synergy cards I was talking about. On its own, it's fine. It's a 2/2 double strike for 3. It's acceptable. But giving another creature double strike is just nice. And that's potentially every turn. Vryn Wingmare is 2 and a white for a 2/1 creature Pegasus with flying. Non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast. So this is one of those control cards, but it's also good in an aggro deck that is pretty much only playing creatures. It can hinder your opponents from playing counter spells and removal spells and blockers of their own. Preeminent Captain, 2 and a white for a 2/2 creature Kithkin Soldier with first strike. Whenever Preeminent Captain attacks, you may put a soldier creature card from your hand onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. This card can be very good at cheating out creatures. There's not too many big payoffs that will, that'll be really expensive. There's a 6-drop that will be very nice to get. In general, this card is kind of on the chopping block, depending on how many soldiers I get. It's sort of leading me into putting more soldiers into the cube, kind of passively, maybe in other colors. Frontline Medic, 2 and a white for a 3/3 creature, human cleric with battalion. Whenever Frontline Medic and at least 2 other creatures attack, creatures you control are indestructible this turn. Sacrifice Frontline Medic, counter target spell with X in its mana cost, unless its controller pays 3. So, aggressive creature that makes your attackers indestructible, that's pretty nice. And then also having the ability to counter some spells is cool. There's definitely a few X spells in this cube, but it's mostly in there for giving creatures indestructible. Silverblade Paladin, 1 and 2 white for a 2/2 creature human knight with soul bond. As long as Silverblade Paladin is paired with another creature, both creatures have double strike. So this is kind of like the Erishin Foremost, in that it will have double strike and something else will have double strike. It's just also a 2/2 for 3. Archetype of Courage, 1 and 2 white for a 2/2 enchantment creature, human soldier. Creatures you control have first strike. Creatures your opponents control lose first strike and can't have or gain first strike. So another aggressive card that boosts your entire team, which is great. First strike is very relevant. Auramancer, 2 and a white for a 2/2 creature, human wizard. When Auramancer enters the battlefield, you may return target enchantment card from your graveyard to your hand. So some synergies there. You'll see soon once I get to the enchantment section that I have quite a few. Sunscourge Champion, 2 and a white for a 2/3 creature, human wizard. When Sunscourge Champion enters the battlefield, you gain life equal to its power. It has Eternalize for 2 and 2 white and discard a card. So, life gain again, and repeatable, comes back. Midnight Guard, 2 and a white for a 2/3 creature, human soldier. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, untap Midnight Guard. Now, even though he is a soldier and a white guard, he is not for the aggressive deck. He is actually a combo piece. He works with 2 infinite combos. There is the Splinter Twin combo and the Presence of Gond combo. So you can get infinite Midnight Guard tokens with haste, or you can get infinite 1/1 elf tokens that don't have haste. But yeah, so two combos there this works for. But it's also just a fine filler card if you want it to be. Flicker Wisp, 1 and 2 white for a 3/1 creature elemental with flying. When Flicker Wisp enters the battlefield, exile another target permanent. Return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. I don't have a big flicker or blink theme here, but there are always cards that you'll want to bounce and get an effect again. Fiend Hunter, 1 and 2 white for a 1/3 creature human cleric. When Fiend Hunter enters the battlefield, you may exile another target creature. When Fiend Hunter leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to the battlefield under its owner's control. So this card is a white control card in the form of a creature. This is also the one card like this that can be abused because these two effects are on two different lines. You can respond to the first trigger of exiling something by destroying the Fiend Hunter, sacrificing it, something like that, making it leave the battlefield, and then the leave the battlefield trigger will activate and it will find nothing, and then the exile trigger will resolve, exiling the creature, but the creature will never return because Fiend Hunter is not on the battlefield. It's kind of an interesting interaction, but that makes it better than some of the other versions they printed. Eidolon of Countless Battles, 1 and 2 white for a 0/0 enchantment creature spirit. Bestow for 2 and 2 white. Eidolon of Countless Battles and enchanted creature each get +1/+1 in each creature you control, for each creature you control, and +1/+1 for each aura you control. So this benefits the Enchantments theme, and it benefits a go-wide token strategy. Which, like I said, it's nice to have multiple synergies in one card. Ranger of Eos, 3 and a white for a 3/2 creature human soldier. When Ranger of Eos enters the battlefield, you may search your library for up to 2 creature cards with converted mana cost 1 or less. Reveal them and put them into your hand. If you do, shuffle your library. Like you saw before, there's a lot of white 1-drops, and of course there's 1-drops in other colors. Just being able to bring 2 of them into your hand is very nice. Oketra the True, 3 and a white for a 3/6 legendary creature, god. Double strike, indestructible. Oketra the True can't attack or block unless you control at least 3 other creatures. Pay 3 and a white and create a 1/1 white warrior creature token with vigilance. So it benefits the token strategy, is a massive beater when it can attack. It's indestructible, so it's hard to remove, and if it doesn't meet its own requirements, it can start pumping out tokens with extra mana. Kabira Vindicator, 3 and a white for a creature human knight with level up for 2 and a white. Starts out as a 2/4, level 2 through 4 it is a 3/6 that gives other creatures you control +1/+1, and at level 5 and up it's a 4/8 that gives other creatures you control +2/+2. So it's kind of a late game way for the aggro decks to punch in a little bit more, but in general it might not be wanted, but it's a good late game threat, and a good way to sink your mana into something. Restoration Angel, 3 and a white for a 3/4 creature angel with flying and flash. When Restoration Angel enters the battlefield, you may exile target non-angel creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under your control. So flicker again, and like I said, there's plenty of cards that you'll want to do this to. We also have Glimmerpoint Stag, which is similar, 2 and 2 white for a 3/3 creature elk with vigilance. When Glimmerpoint Stag enters the battlefield, exile another target permanent. Return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. This one's nice because it can be any permanent, not just a creature, and it can be anyone's permanent, not just yours. So having that flexibility is nice. Sunscorch Regent, 3 and 2 white for a 4/3 creature dragon with flying. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Sunscorched Regent, and you gain 1 life. It's just a really good creature on its own, but life gain is also a nice factor. Archangel Avacyn, 3 and 2 white for a 4/4 legendary creature angel with flash, fly-in, and vigilance. When Archangel Avacyn enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. When a non-angel creature you control dies, transform Archangel Avacyn at the beginning of the next upkeep. And she transforms into Avacyn the Purifier, a 6/5 legendary creature, angel with flying. When this creature transforms into Avacyn the Purifier, it deals 3 damage to each other creature and each opponent. So this card is a little bit of everything. It's instant speed protection for your guys. It transforms into a removal spell that's even bigger. So it's just a very good card on its own. Crested Sunmare, a 3 and 2 white for a 5/5 creature horse. Other horses you control have indestructible. At the beginning of each end step, if you gain life this turn, create a 5/5 white horse creature token. So this goes into that life gain sub-theme. Also makes a bunch of big tokens. So as long as you're getting life, you're getting 5/5s that are indestructible, which is a lot to deal with. Cataclysmic Gearhulk, 3 and 2 white for a 4/5 artifact creature construct with vigilance. When Cataclysmic Gearhulk enters the battlefield, each player chooses an artifact, a creature, an enchantment, and a planeswalker from among the non-land permanents he or she controls, then sacrifices the rest. Wingmate Rock, 3 and 2 white for a 3/4 creature bird with flying. Raid. When Wingmate Rock enters the battlefield, if you attacked with a creature this turn, put a 3/4 white bird creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Whenever Wingmate Rock attacks, you gain 1 life for each attacking creature. So, it's flying, it's aggressive, it gets tokens, it gains life. What can I say? It checks a lot of boxes once again. Karmic Guide, 3 and 2 white for a 2/2 creature angel spirit, flying, protection from black. Echo for 3 and 2 white. When Karmic Guide enters the battlefield, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. So it's a 5-mana recursion spell, and you might be able to keep it around as a creature. Captain of the Watch. Here's that soldier payoff card. 4 and 2 white for a 3/3 creature human soldier with vigilance. Other soldier creatures you control get +1/+1 and have vigilance. When Captain of the Watch enters the battlefield, put 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield. So, very nice curve topper for any tokens deck, especially soldiers. Secure the Wastes, X and a white for an instant. Put X 1/1 white warrior creature tokens onto the battlefield. Simple but effective, good mana sink, and warriors are synergistic. Dispatch. 1 white for an instant, tap target creature. Metalcraft, if you control 3 or more artifacts, exile that creature. So it can be a better path to exile if you have artifacts, which shouldn't be too difficult. Valorous Stance. 1 and a white for an instant. Choose 1. Target creature gains indestructible until end of turn, or destroy target creature with toughness 4 or greater. It's a protection spell and a removal spell, which is always useful. Raise the Alarm. 1 and a white for an instant. Put 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield. Simple but effective. Create sufficient creatures, tokens, and their soldiers. Sky Whaler's Shot. 2 and a white for an instant. Destroy target creature with power 3 or greater. Scry 1. Removal is always good. We'll see if this one stays in, but it's pretty decent. The scrying is a nice touch. Entrapment Maneuver, 3 and a white. Target player sacrifices an attacking creature. You create X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens, where X is that creature's toughness. So a pretty interesting card. And it gets soldiers, it gets tokens, and it's removal, which is always nice. Now into the sorceries. We have Fragmentize. 1 white for a sorcery. Destroy target artifact or enchantment with converted mana cost 4 or less, which is most of them. Launch the Fleet. 1 white for a sorcery with Strive. Launch the Fleet, cost 1 generic more to cast for each target beyond the first. Until end of turn, any number of target creatures each gain. Whenever this creature attacks, put a 1/1 white soldier creature token onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking. So it triggers heroic. They're soldier tokens. It's good for aggressive. It's a good place to sink your mana. I played it in Modern a bit. It's just fun. Sunlance. 1 white for a sorcery. Sunlance deals 3 damage to target non-white creature. Efficient removal. Terashi's Grasp. 2 and a white for a sorcery arcane. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. You gain life equal to its converted mana cost. So sort of the opposite of Fragmentize. This rewards you for killing a bigger enchantment than 4. Windborne Charge. 2 and 2 white for a sorcery. 2 target creatures you control each get +2/+2 and gain flying until end of turn. It's unfortunate that it's sorcery speed, but still effective as somewhat of a combat trick, and synergizes with flying and heroic. End Hostilities. Gotta have a board wipe in there. 3 and 2 white for a sorcery. Destroy all creatures and all permanents attached to creatures. Which works well for creatures, enchantment creatures that have bestow, as well as equipment. Righteous Confluence. 3 and 2 white for a sorcery. Choose 3. You may choose the same mode more than once. Put a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance onto the battlefield, or exile target enchantment, or you gain 5 life. I love versatile spells, so all the commands and confluences and everything are a lot of fun, and I enjoy having them in my cube. I like cards that do more than just one thing. Now we're on to the enchantments. We have Cartouche of Solidarity, 1 white for an enchantment or a cartouche. Enchant creature you control. When Cartouche of Solidarity enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white warrior creature token with vigilance. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has first strike. So it creates tokens, and they also happen to be warriors, and it kind of does a lot for 1 mana. Soul Snare. 1 white for an enchantment. Pay a white and sacrifice Soul Snare. Exile target creature that's attacking you or a planeswalker you control. It's cheap removal, and it synergizes as an enchantment until you kill it. Ethereal Armor. 1 white for an enchantment aura. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 for each enchantment you control and has first strike. So this guy could potentially be big. First strike makes it relevant. Intangible Virtue. 1 and a white for an enchantment. Creature tokens you control get +1/+1 and have vigilance. Good for tokens, obviously. Conviction. 1 and a white for an enchantment aura. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +1/+3. Pay a white. Return Conviction to its owner's hand. It's going to be nice to get a lot of those triggers of casting a aura. Like on the Hero of Erebos, you could be paying 2 mana a turn to return and equip this guy and get a +1/+1 counter on him for each time. Ordeal of Heliod. 1 and a white. Enchantment aura. Enchant creature. Whenever enchanted creature attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Then, if it has 3 or more +1/+1 counters on it, sacrifice Ordeal of Heliod. When you sacrifice Ordeal of Heliod, you gain 10 life. Now that's an enchantment aura. buffs up your creature, and you gain a pretty respectable amount of life. Ghostly Prison, 2 and a white for an enchantment. Creatures can't attack you unless their controller pays 2 generic for each creature he or she controls that's attacking you. So it's protection. It really helps you out from being attacked. They gotta remove this before they kill your creature for the most part. Desert's Hold, 2 and a white, enchantment aura, enchant creature. When Desert's Hold enters the battlefield, if you control a desert or there is a desert card in your graveyard, you gain 3 life. Enchanted creature can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated. So originally I had Arrest in the cube, but Desert's Hold is literally the same thing with more text on it. It has the possibility of gaining 3 life if you have a desert, and I've put a few deserts in here. So even if there was only one desert in the cube, I feel like I'd still put this in over Arrest because it's literally better. Does everything Arrest does and more. Banishing Light, 2 and a white for an enchantment. When Banishing Light enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls until Banishing Light leaves the battlefield. Pretty unconditional removal. Enchantments can be hard to remove. Always Watching, 1 and 2 white for an enchantment. Non-token creatures you control get +1/+1 and have vigilance. Griffin Guide, 2 and a white for an enchantment aura, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has flying. When enchanted creature dies, put a 2/2 white griffin creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So it gives something flying, it buffs it up, and it leaves a flying token behind. So there's a lot of value in this enchantment aura. Oblivion Ring, 2 and a white for an enchantment. When Oblivion Ring enters the battlefield, exile another target non-land permanent. When Oblivion Ring leaves the battlefield, return the exiled card to the battlefield under its owner's control. So this is the same as Banishing Light, except like the Fiend Hunter, the text is on 2 different lines, so you could abuse this if you wanted to permanently exile something. Reverence, 2 and 2 white for an enchantment. Creatures with power 2 or less can't attack you. So this is sort of in here for protection against aggro if you're in more of a white control deck, but there's a lot of small efficient creatures in the deck, or in the cube in general, so this can be protection against a lot of things. Faith's Fetters, 3 and a white for an enchantment aura, enchant permanent. When Faith's Fetters enters the battlefield, you gain 4 life. Enchanted permanent can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated unless they're mana abilities. So compared to Arrest or Desert's Hold, you get, for 1 more mana in this card, 4 life, and the ability to also shut down enchantments or planeswalkers instead of just creatures. So that's pretty nice. And then one of the biggest payoffs for playing enchantments is Starfield of Nyx, 4 and a white for an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may return target enchantment card from your graveyard to the battlefield. As long as you control 5 or more enchantments, each other non-aura enchantment you control is a creature in addition to its other types, and has base power and base toughness each equal to its converted mana cost. The nice thing about this is that while the second clause only applies to non-auras, you can bring back auras with the first clause, and it counts towards having 5 or more enchantments. So you can enchant your enchantments with auras, potentially, and keep bringing them back. So interesting card, good way to win. Dictate of Heliod, 3 and 2 white for an enchantment with flash. Creatures you control get +2/+2. So it's a permanent buff to all of your creatures, and you can use it as a combat trick if necessary. Ajani, Caller of the Pride, 1 and 2 white for a 4 loyalty planeswalker Ajani. +1, put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature. -3, target creature gains flying and double strike until end of turn. -8, put X 2/2 white cat creature tokens onto the battlefield, where X is your life total. So He's a low drop Planeswalker, helps out with aggressive creatures, and if you're in the life gain strategy, you can get a heck of a lot of tokens if you level him up a lot. Our last card is a white artifact. It's 1 white for an artifact, Dispeller's Capsule. 2 and a white, and tap and sacrifice Dispeller's Capsule. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. So just another way to remove those hard to remove card types, while also synergizing by being an artifact in white, which requires some artifact synergy in a few cards. So guys, that was the white section of my cube. I'm sorry it went for so long, but I have 50 cards in each color. It's going to take a little while. Hopefully the next ones will be a little bit shorter because I won't have to explain as much. So let me know if you enjoyed this video, and if you want to see the rest of the cube. I'm going to try to make videos of the rest of the cube anyways, but I always love your feedback. And of course, if you have suggestions for cards, please let me know. I would love to hear your suggestions. It's mostly a budget cube, keep it in mind. So I'm not going to put like Elish Norn in here for the white because that's just out of my budget range. Anyways, thank you all for watching. If you're still watching this 40 minutes in, I had a lot of fun making this and making my cube. So I will see you guys in the next video where we cover the blue section. Have a great day or night, and I'll see you in the next video.